Education has long been a powerful agent of change in human societies. It is capable of unlocking opportunity, promoting equality, and fostering freedom. Yet, the right to education has not always been universally available, let alone a reality for everyone. The development of public education, in its current form, has been shaped by a multitude of conflicts, judicial decisions, and social movements. From the colonial period up until present day, the struggle for public education has been long and continues to evolve. For the purpose of this discussion, we'll review the historical evolution of public education in the United States with a specific focus on what transpired in Michigan, who some of the key players were, and how the struggle to ensure that education is a right for everyone has endured.
The story of Michigan education begins with the colonial period. Michigan's schools were frequently established by the churches with the express function of teaching children to read the Bible during its early years, since it was influenced by what all other states have done for so long. Early schooling was very localized, meaning only certain areas, usually areas of wealth and influence in a community, had access to it. Most of the early history of the American colonies found education not to be universal. Children who lived in rural areas simply did not have much opportunity to attend school, while most poor children received absolutely no schooling at all. The 19th century finally brought into the public view education for all children.
Despite early education reforms setting the foundation for public education, there were still many obstacles that people had to face for equal education well into the 19th and even 20th century. African American children and girls were often denied access to quality education. Schools were separated along racial and even gendered lines. The education that minority students received was held to a lower standard compared to white students. In the mid 20th century, the fight for equal access to education reached a significant turning point with the landmark case known as Gary B. versus Whitmer. This decision ruled that Michigan was going against the Constitution by providing low quality education and focusing on low income and predominantly black schools. This ruling was made in order to make sure that all students had access to an adequate standard of education. Despite the decision not immediately solving the problem, it highlighted the ongoing battle for access to quality education for students all across the states.
While the struggle for racial equality in education was getting better, a new movement emerged in the 1960s and 70s to promote gender equality in education. Prior to the passage of Title IX in 1972, women had major restrictions in education, such as limited access to sports, academic programs, and extracurricular activities. Title IX, a federal law banning sex-based discrimination education programs receiving federal funding, marked a milestone in the struggle for equality between the sexes. Passed in 1972, Title IX opened doors for women in sports, scholarship opportunities, and academic fields previously dominated by men. Since the law's enactment, participation by women in Michigan high schools and collegiate athletics has greatly increased. Title IX was a turning point, assuring women equal access to education and the opportunities inherent within.
Even while major steps were made towards the desegregation of schools and gender equity, one of the key battles to be consistently waged has been that of unequal distribution of resources within public education. Education in America is primarily financed through local property taxes. This has created a system in which richer communities with higher property values are able to afford better schools, while poorer districts struggle to provide quality education. Along with taxes, Michigan has a per pupil foundation allowance. Schools receive a set amount of money annually based on the amount of students enrolled in their district. The funding system has caused a sharp contrast in the quality of education provided, depending on where one lives. Whereas schools in wealthy areas have modern facilities, sophisticated technologies, and a highly qualified staff, schools in poor neighborhoods often lack these resources and provide lower quality of educational opportunities. Over the past few decades, the difference in equality has been the reason behind several lawsuits, protests, and activist movements fighting for systemic changes. One of the most compelling arguments about the gap in equality is seen in the case of Milliken v. Bradley, decided in 1974. In that case, it examined a Detroit case challenging racial segregation in the state's public schools and ultimately found a solution through busing students across district lines was inappropriate. Nevertheless, the fact remains that today, school financing and other connected resources continue to link closely to the local taxing of properties.
Michigan has been at the leading edge of weaving technology into education, using innovations to better students' learning and preparing young people for a rapidly changing world. Technology has reshaped the way students in Michigan learn from early programs putting computers in Detroit public schools in the 1980s to statewide online learning initiatives today. In the 2000s, Michigan took a big leap forward when the Michigan Virtual University Act was passed, which established what is now called Michigan Virtual School, or MVS. This platform has provided online courses and resources for students across the state, particularly benefiting those in rural areas with limited access to advanced placement or specialized courses. During the COVID-19 pandemic, schools across Michigan rapidly transitioned to remote learning. Districts such as Ann Arbor Public Schools and Detroit Public School Community moved lessons onto online platforms, lending laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots to students in need of them. While those efforts showed how technology could help bridge the gap in access, it also highlighted the disparity that still remains. For example, rural parts of Michigan, such as Upper Peninsula, struggled greatly due to the lack of infrastructure for broadband. The digital dive felt even more urban areas like Detroit, with many families without devices or access to reliable internet. Programs such as Connected Futures were launched to help bridge the disparities by providing technology and internet access to thousands of students who needed it. Michigan educators have also embraced several other interactive learning tools as programs in robotics, coding camps, and initiatives related to STEM that give students 21st century skills. Research and partnership support that given by universities such as Michigan State University and University of Michigan to advance improvements in technology. But as Michigan continues to invest in education technology, it will become increasingly important to make sure that all students have an equal access. Broadband expansion, funding of digital tools, and training of teachers on the use of technology are some key strategies in closing the digital gap we face today.
The right to a free public education is one of the essential rights guaranteed to Michigan residents by the Michigan Constitution. Article 8, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution states that the public education of children is a primary duty of the state of Michigan. All children have the right to attend public schools, regardless of their background, according to the Michigan Constitution. This is an important right because it ensures that all children have access to the tools and information they need to grow, regardless of where they live or how rich their family is. The state has a clear responsibility to provide an appropriate, equitable, and efficient public education system. The state is required by the Michigan Constitution to guarantee the upkeep of a free public school system that satisfies the educational requirements of all students. This includes providing schools with the sufficient funding and to guarantee that a student's family income or zip code has no effect on the quality of their education. Parents are responsible for sending their children to school in order to support their kids' learning. Teachers and school administrators must provide a quality education. In addition to guaranteeing every child's right to an education, Michigan's Constitution lays out obligations for the state and its people in this area. All Michigan children will succeed if these duties are followed, resulting in a larger, more equitable community.
Michigan's public school history shows a lasting belief that education is a key foundation for progress and equality. The journey from small, humble, one-room schoolhouses to the complex, interconnected education system today was shaped, or is in the process of being so, by literally countless individuals and movements committed to making education a right rather than a privilege. As we have seen, this journey is far from over. Equal access, adequate funding, and creative learning approaches remain challenging. These challenges regarding a digital divide, systemic inequities, and changing social needs are reminders that progress does not stand still. It asks for continued action and commitment.
Even while we celebrate progress, we must recognize the hardships that still exist. Too many students still face challenges that prevent them from learning, and too many schools continue to lack sufficient resources. This continuous battle serves as proof of the injustices that are ingrained in our education system.
Education is more than learning facts and figures. It is a way to empower individuals to unlock their full potential and subsequently help them contribute back to society in meaningful ways. What the story of public education in Michigan shows us is that though the way forward may not be easy, it is a way forward worth walking together.